Hello and welcome to the Sabrina River Folk Podcast with me, Nicola Haasz. Tonight's guest is Jules Chapman. Jules lives on her narrowboat on the Gloucester to Sharpness Canal with her husband and dog, and she's also known as the River Botherer. She creates artwork from things that she finds and mudlarks on the banks of the Severn, and she joins me tonight to tell us all about it. So, welcome to the podcast, Jules.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So, if we could, Jules, if we could just start with a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you grew up, that sort of thing, please.
Okay. So I spent the first 28 days of my life in Tiverton in Devon, and then the family moved with my dad's job to Rangeworthy, so sort of just within the boundaries of Gloucestershire. And that was kind of probably about 3 or 4 years old. I remember him taking us and the dogs down to Purton. That was back in the days where sort of big things were moored on the canal and you could jump over the ropes and what have you. I loved Purton. I loved the hulks. I thought they were absolutely mind-blowing. And then we used to do a big long walk from Albury at the anchor up to the power station and back. So sort of anywhere between, I say, Albury and Sharpness, we would go to at the weekends and walk the dogs. But I think it wasn't until we moved to Frampton on Severn and I got a completely different perspective of the river. So down at Albury, it kind of looked quite brown and flat, and there wasn't sort of something really switching on my whole artistic side with it. When we got to Frampton and we went to Hot Cliff for the first time, it's amazing because you sit there on the bank with the cliff behind you and you've got this massive stretch of river right in front of you. And I think that was when I loved her before, but the relationship with her just deepened from there, really.
Amazing. I know it well. We used to cliff all the time with my grandmother as well. So obviously growing up around the River Severn, it obviously influenced you from a very early age. And something about the Severn really kind of gets into your, into your bones and under your skin and all of those type of things.
Absolutely.
Obviously you're now known as the River Botherer. So what does a river botherer do?
Follow the river at every given opportunity that I can. I it wasn't until we actually found the sandbank that this really kicked off. So I love finding things. I'm really happy trundling along the shore. You look down, you can see shells, fossils, bits of driftwood. It depends what she's giving me that day. Sometimes it's almost like a theme. So a certain strength of tide will collect certain objects and put them in one place. It's quite a weird thing. So it sort of started down there, but it wasn't until we went to the sandbank at Longney the first time that's an astonishing place. And I'd walked to the water's edge and I looked down and there was like a dog skull at my feet. It looked like it was bronze where it had been in the water for so long. And everywhere you walked, you were finding big bits of fossilized bone. So I started doing a TikTok channel where I bore the pants off people about the river on a regular basis. And I just show people what I've found and share the information where people have helped me identify what animals these have come from. And I've sort of, it's really been like a snowball thing where it's got into every area of my artwork, whether it's making jewellery, painting, or other things. And we are literally inundated with bits of wood and bone on the bank.
And what would be your favourite thing that you ever found on the River Severn?
My favourite thing, I found a metapodial bone. So it's like one of those little bits of bone with a notch cut in it. And one of the guys on one of the forums thinks it's bison. Well, we
Ah.
haven't got bison for sort of 500 odd years, so that's quite exciting to find a bone from something that's now extinct in these lands is pretty special.
And I imagine it's kind of a bit of a every day you don't know what's going to get washed up. So every day it's something new, something fresh. It depends on what the tides are doing. If it's been stormy, if it's very dry, then obviously there's a lot more exposed sandbank, etc., etc. So I can imagine every day is like a fresh start, when you're gathering all of your bits and pieces.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's we tend to sort of walk down through really beautiful farmland. It was growing oilseed rape earlier in the year, and it was just stunning. And we come out by this little bit of an outfall, which is sort of falling into disrepair. And then you've got this enormous bank. And she makes me laugh as well, because there's other sort of island banks around, and sometimes she'll plonk a channel right in front of me, so I can't get down there at all. It's like she's played a trick saying, I can show you where the bone is, but you're not having it. But yeah, very often if I walk up towards the right, there's an absolute shed load just all over the bank. Other times we've found coal, which we sort of topped our wood burner up in the winter. So yeah, she's got many gifts. It's a really special skyline for me. I can see May Hill from there. It's just it's one of those places that really grabs you.
So, with the things that you collect, and you mentioned earlier, you alluded to some of the bits and bobs that you make. Can you tell us a bit more about the artwork that you create from the things that you find?
Yeah, what I'm doing at the moment is I've found flat bits of wood. Some of it's like tunnel and groove, some of it's just slats. Um, we bring them home, I saw them up, I put a bit of gesso on them, and then I paint on them. And it's interesting because having painted stuff on canvases or canvas board, I've done okay, but I feel like actually now I'm painting on something I've found down there. It's made a really big difference to what I'm doing and how I feel about it. So yeah, a lot of the paintings are on wood. I've done a few on bone. The bone's probably something I'd more use in like a spiritual sense. I've got ones that I use as a bit of a link to the river if I want to do a working and I can't get down there for any reason. But yeah, painting on the sort of washed up planks has been a very nice cheap way of getting my own canvases.
And the sort of jewelry you make, what sort of jewelry pieces do you make?
Oh, all sorts. I've found little shells. Some of them are a little bit too delicate to use, but occasionally you'll find some you can put for a tiny hole in them. I've made earrings. Um, I've made pendants with bits of bone. One of them I found a tooth, probably box sort of tooth size. And I like decorating, put those on a bit of thonging with some serpentine beads. So I like the green crystals and the bone looks really nice together. And
Amazing.
then feathers, collected to see if I can get pairs of feathers, and I've made feather earrings, or there's these really cool little things like seed pods that I find down there. So I'm using those as beads as well.
And so, do you find that the landscape of, Sabrina's landscape, the River Severn landscape down there in that tidal area of Gloucestershire, that's what inspires your artwork?
Yes,
Yeah.
majorly so there. It's I don't know, it's really difficult to describe exactly how you feel down there, but it's like you've wandered into a dream. And this perspective, I mean, it's absolutely vast, but you can't sort of judge. It plays tricks on you, whether it's the light, the distance. It definitely feels like you're not on your own down there, even if you are. That's quite an interesting feeling. And it's yeah, the colours, it's so dramatic. If the sun's out and it's like brilliant sunshine, it's beautiful, or it can be really moody if it's dull. And yeah, it's just the astonishing things we see down there, really. I took a jaunt down in January and we'd had a really big frost. And every time there was this little dip in the sand where you've got the undulations, where the dip was, the ice had made like a little wigwam all the way around the dips. And you've got all these ice crystals. They're probably about sort of 6 inches long. It's just, yeah, you never know what she's going to show you from one day to the next.
Amazing. And of course, we know you as a canal person as well. You and your partner Bob. You are canal people. You live on a canal boat on the Sharpness to Gloucester Canal, which obviously runs very close and in some places very close to the River Severn. Do you think that living close to the water on the canal has deepens your connection with the river as well? Do you think it's a sort of they work together, don't they? The two of them.
I think so. Yeah, and especially I think when you said it about the narrow piece, Purton, where
Mm.
it's at its thinnest, it is lovely living on water. It's one of the nicest experiences of a home I've ever had, I think. But one of the nicest things about the home is when you can take the mooring ropes in, jaunt down to Purton over the weekend. And it's really nice. There's a gap in the hedge down there where we've more upright. You can actually look through to the river out the window. So yeah, I think it has really. It's just helped me connect better, I think.
Yeah, and I think when you live on a canal boat as well, you've got less barrier to the outside world, and you feel the seasons a lot more. You feel the heat and the cold a lot more, and you feel the lights. I think you're more aware of the light growing and getting darker as well a lot more. And I think that that lifestyle. We know lots of people who live on canal boats in the area that we live because it's a very lovely lifestyle to have, and you're very close to all of the birds, like you say, and all of that natural environment. And of course, the Gloucester Sharpness Canal was built because navigating up the Severn around the Great Horseshoe Bend and all of that way up to Gloucester Docks is incredibly difficult to navigate. So the canal was built for that reason. Yeah, so I don't envy those sailors that used to have to try and sail up the Severn back in the day. I'm sure you would agree.
Definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't really want to be caught on the Severn. There are people that will take their boat down to Avonmouth via the Sharpness Lock, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, no, no, we're built for a canal. The boat's fine, but I really, really don't think I could handle going down the River Severn. But we have been up. So we've been out of Gloucester Dock and we went to Upton.
Nice, yeah.
That was lovely because we moored overnight outside one of the pubs. I think it was the Yew Tree. And I woke up to find a family of kingfishers whizzing around at 5 o'clock in the morning, which was pretty amazing because it's lucky if you can see one. But to see a whole family was pretty special. And then you get the really lovely visuals where you get sort of tall dead trees right in the middle of the canal, and there's about 6 cormorants sitting on them. So yeah, it was a really, really nice experience going up the river.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So obviously you live on a canal boat. You're recording this podcast from a canal boat now, and you're living in a cyclical nature with the seasons close to the river. Do you get a real sense of Sabrina, the goddess of the River Severn? Is she part of your spirituality?
Yes, yes, I think she's really like a living, breathing thing in her own right, and you can feel the mood of her, and I think she does deserve an awful lot of respect, whether it's in a spiritual sense or in a physical sense. But yeah, she is definitely, you can feel the power of her just by sort of standing there and watching her. If you're lucky enough to see a Severn ball, that's amazing. And I read Fred Rowbotham's book about the Severn ball, which is a brilliant read. And I liked what he said about going to find the boar in the sort of lonelier places. He didn't see it as a sort of spectator sport so much. And while that can be fun, I don't think it's a match for just being on the side of the bank with nobody around and just hearing it come from downstream, getting louder and louder. So yeah, she's very, very much part of my spiritual practice. And I think the spirits of place down there are very important as well. What we tend to do once we've finished our mudlark, or if we've been down there for a picnic, we will always sort of break bread and share something with the spirits of place, leave some offerings.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a complete love affair with her. I mean, she's just so beautiful. So, yeah, we try and sort of theme what we leave her. So, if it's really, really cold in the winter, she's had a nip of whiskey or put some potatoes, something for sustenance. Uh, More sort of lighter salady things. We've shared beer with her, wine. So, yeah, depending on what the season's doing, something seasonal that fits the bill, whatever the weather's doing. But yeah, I would definitely say it's an act of devotion, gratitude, but I also find it quite useful if you want to sort of bring something into your life. I'll ask for it on a high tide or a boar if I need it quickly. And if I'd like her to take something away, we've done things where we can send something off on the outgoing tide. There are some odd stories that I've found going through the old Gloucester Citizen, including a cow that was rescued by the Severn boar. I think this was in 1937 or something. And this poor animal was stuck in the mud. And it was actually the boar and the movement of the water that got it free, and he was able to swim to safety. So
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? That's a lovely account of where, she's actually saving a creature, and so much focus is given to her taking lives, and I think that's really lovely to hear that different perspective, definitely. Yeah. So, what's next for you? I mean, obviously you're still crafting and you're still making your beautiful
yeah.
things, collecting all of your river botherer bits and bobs and mudlarking and were you going to put them on display anywhere or anything like that? It would be great if you did an exhibition.
That's one idea. Joe, I'd love to open a river museum.
Yeah.
That would be great. Just have a load of different things, but photography, art, found stuff, you name it. I think that would be cool. If I win the lottery, that's one thing I would do. But the other thing I really want to do, and I have started, is write a book.
Right.
But rather than it be, Fred Rowbotham's Bible of the Severn, if you like, it's a fantastic read, but I want to include a lot more sort of spiritual stuff, poetry, images, obviously a bit of science so that people can wrap their head around just how fast she flows, how long she is, how she behaves, how the ball works, just to put people into perspective. But what I would like to do really is to start it from the day I first found the sandbank in May and take people through 1 year so they can see her in all different moods, all different tides, and watch the landscape change over the whole cycle.
Well, watch this space. That sounds lovely. That sounds a lovely journey that, would be wonderful. I really hope that you get this off the ground with all of your collection of photos and artwork and all of those things, and every piece tells a story, every shell, every skull, every bone, have you found any sort of historical items, sort of archaeological things?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I've probably got the oddest finds collection on most of the mudlarking groups. There's people on the Thames that find gold, garnets, silver buckles. The only historical thing apart from the bison bone is an old boot.
Mm.
So yes, I find shoes all over the place. And as you know, if you go down to Hopcliffe, you have the Temple of Shoe tree where people have added Crocs and flip-flops.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of follow me around. So nothing that would get me thousands of pounds from a museum. But yeah, I'll find a dead shoe, one with old hobnails in, or something more modern.
But it still has the story,
It
and
does.
it's, and that's the fascinating part of it. The human story is, for us the thing that we love, and the connection we have with the river, and that boot belonged to somebody,
Mm.
who were they? When did they live? What did they do? The mind just races along, doesn't it, with that kind of that thought and that idea of that person. But yeah, having all of your finds on display and in a book sounds like a really fantastic idea, and I'm very excited about that. What's your favourite spot on the Severn? Is it down at Longney Sands or?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Second place for me would be the Arlingham Peninsula.
yeah,
That's really beautiful. One thing I really like down there is you, like Etney, you get a lot of chance to talk to the surfers before the board's due. And they talk about something called river mouth. So that's what happens when you start talking about the Severn or somebody mentions the Severn. It's the barrage of information that comes out of a person with no off switch. And they were talking about the first time this one guy had surfed, and I think he's in his 60s, then started recently. But he was talking about being on the edge of a perfectly green glass shoulder of this wave. And my head just went, oh, isn't that lovely? Just listening to this sort of poetic language that they've got when they talk about how it looked. So I have been invited out for a paddleboard on the Severn at some stage, which I'm going to have to do. I'm not sure how I'd fare with surfing. That could be hilarious. But yeah, it's just Arlingham's another one of those really beautiful places. But yeah, Longney without a shadow of a doubt is my absolute favourite. I think that's partially down to when I had my ancestry results back. I knew my dad was born and bred in Gloucestershire, but I didn't realise how many people from this area, sort of Epney, Longney, Frampton, Berkeley, and Rodley and Westbury over the other side of the river. We've literally nestled my favourite bit hundreds and hundreds of years, which is really nice to know.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm the same. I am totally magnetized to the spot, and it's like we probably are related somewhere along the line, Jules. Because many of the families didn't move anywhere,
Yeah.
and there was only a certain amount of families, old families, that stayed in the area, and so it's likely that you and I could actually be related. And you say that your family have lived for generations in the area. Did they work on the canals? Were they fishing on the boats? Do we know any of that?
So we've got probably more farmers than anything. There's a farm at Rodley, and then in the next parish down, I think there's another family of farmers, and they were there particularly in the 1700s. This side, I think the family were at the farmhouse where Kit's Green Nurseries is. There's a few of us this side. We've got two uncles from the 1800s who were what they call coal landsmen, so they would have taken coal off a barge. That was nice to know because this was sort of in the days before the canal. So it's like that would have been quite treacherous work. They must have been really tough people.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
being able to sort of work in that environment with that fierce tide is pretty mind blowing. So yeah, but it's mainly farmers and labourers sort of dotted about all over this area. I think the only thing I'd probably add, like sort of on the subject of ancestry, it's quite a strange feeling being that close to the river. I mean, I went for years thinking I would never be able to sort of go paddling in it or put my hands in it. Because my dad always brought me up with this sort of really hellfire and damnation, be careful of the river. She's absolutely treacherous. And then to find I've been able to get that close is absolutely lovely, because it does feel as though she's running through my veins. Now I know I've got all these ancestors nestling both sides. It's pretty magical.
One of the delights of your life is also your dog, and I just wanted to mention your dog because he's such a character on the canal as well.
Oh yeah, she's lovely. We've had her since 2018. She's had an awful lot of issues being a rescue, but it's been really about just giving her the quietest, most chilled out life without sort of issues, giving her good routine, exercise, and just trying to bring her stress levels about everything down. So we called her Boudica because she treats everything a little bit like Boudica treated the Romans. But I thought Boudica also means victory, so there'll be a happy ending there for her. And she absolutely loves charging about down on the sandbank. And we'll sort of bring her home caked in mud, dangle her under the tap at the end of the pontoon and wash her off. But yeah, she will run about with any dead shoe I've found for hours.
You're obviously in love with the river. You know,
Yeah.
it's a love story, isn't it? And there's this um yeah, you know, river folk, we just have this thing, we can't explain it. We just have this connection and we just adore her. And you know, it's just a lovely thing. And you know, this is very much about what the podcast is about sharing people's stories and their interactions with the river. But yeah, I think it would be really nice if we, you know, I've been campaigning for getting a Sabrina statue put up in Gloucester, but I would really like one down in Arlingham or somewhere on the river, you know, river there as well. Or, you know, maybe we should just create our own jewels. We'll just, you know, maybe you could build something out of some pieces of driftwood or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, and
I'm
we
quite
can,
sure something like that could happen.
yeah, we could decorate it with shells and things like that. I think, you know, something like that needs to happen down there, definitely.
So yeah, I think the focus now, really, apart from working on the book, I'm going on sort of fact-finding missions. So I do want to visit the Black Rock Lavenet fishery as soon as possible. They've got a museum there. Some of the guys from the Forest Moot were talking to me about it and said it was absolutely amazing. And yeah, what I would like to do is get the drone up and take some really good aerial footage, especially if we try to get to the source and work backwards. That would be a really, really cool thing to do, see how much drone footage I could get.
Yeah, the source is pretty amazing. So you're going to cover the whole river in the book, then, not just the Gloucestershire part.
Yes, hopefully. Either that or it'll be 3 books. um, but yeah, it will be nice, and maybe tie it in with the YouTube channel or something so people can actually see the footage as well.
And if people wanted to have a look at your work, how would they find you? Is it River Botherer is your sort of name on TikTok and Instagram and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm terrible at keeping up with Instagram and my Facebook page for that matter. So on Facebook, I am the River Botherer,
Yep.
but on TikTok, my handle is at River Severn Botherer, as in number 7.
Okay.
And that's actually been going really, really well. I found there's a load of people who didn't know what the Severn Bore was. Some of them are even quite local. And I get question after question, like, why does it do that? How does it work? So I did one video because I thought, if I'm going to get a lot of questions, I'll do something for people. And found a stick and drove a really crude, badly drawn River Severn in the sand. And then just explained how the ocean bed was raised at the mouth, and then the fact that she's got second fastest tidal rate in the world for a river, and the funnel effect, of course, which just helps it gather speed and momentum when it comes in. So Yeah, the TikTok thing's been really, really nice. I've got quite a few people that will message to say I can't get out anymore because I'm really sick or I'm disabled. Um, and they'll say lovely things like, thank you for sort of taking me on your walk today, or showing me something I otherwise couldn't get to, which is really nice. And then there's, of course, there's the other people you find who post from their area. So we have this nice sort of little community of people who really love beautiful things.
And do you find that obviously with the Severn boars, with you mudlarking, that the boars bring in a lot of the debris up. So do you find that you could collect more after the Severn boar and things like that? Is it a kind of a cyclical thing? And do you find that you get more stuff during the summer or the winter? How does it sort of flow?
Um, you definitely get more after a boar. It's like you can reach a phase where the pickings are a little bit slim for a few weeks. After the boar, she'll have a good scour of the bank, churn everything up, and you'll go down and you can see, the bank's different, it looks different, its shape's different. You walk up one end and there is an absolute ton of bone up there again, or there'll be an influx of shells, different rocks. So yeah, the board definitely does improve things. Last time we went down, I hadn't been down for 9 days because we'd been in France, and that was a real pull to sort of leave her for 9 days. Didn't feel good. I had a wonderful time, but the first thing we did when we picked the dog up from the kennels was go straight down there for a walk. And it was the oddest thing. All I found pretty much were ribs off very, very large animal. I would imagine they're cattle. But they were just everywhere. And then the next time you'll go down there and you won't see one for months and months and months.
And do you find much sea glass down there?
Not very much, actually. You'll get the odd bit. We have found I found an old like an apothecary bottle in aqua. It's quite a neat one. It's triangular, but the sand's obviously kind of just given this lovely opaque finish to it, which is really nice. And I've found the other thing I'm a star at finding is Shipham's fish paste jars.
Okay.
There is an influx of fish paste jars on the Severn. So yeah, that's my sort of star find, not gold or garnets. It's fish paste jars and old boots.
Oh, boots. Brilliant. What a story, Jules. That's just so interesting. I just cannot wait to see these boots. I really can. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and
Thank you for asking.
sharing your stories of mudlarking on the Severn. And yeah, I'm sure everybody's listening is going to really look forward to seeing the upcoming book, and any kind of art exhibitions or displays that you're going to be doing. And yeah, I'll really look forward to seeing those.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to Jules Chapman for coming on the podcast. You can find Jules on social media on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook as The River Botherer.